Right, thank you for joining us. This is still AM Ghana here on Adult Television. Thanks to Jonathan for bringing us the news, and of course, thanks to Ijoma Juliana for taking us through what the newspapers are telling us. Wherever you're watching us from, we're still saying a very good morning, and thanks to Verna Mineral Water for also coming to support us. This morning, we are going to have a very, very interesting conversation, and it's still about the budget, because today in Parliament, the conclusion part of the debate on the budget perhaps would happen, and if it happens, we will continue to update you and then keep you posted as far as happenings on the budget and the discussions on the budget are concerned. But still on the budget, today we have an honorable MP, Member of Parliament, in the studios to open up the budget and still have some more conversations on the budget, because there is still a lot more in the budget to talk about, and we are going to, from now till the hour of 9, discuss a few things in the budget. If time permits us, we can do more, but so stay with us as we go through the budget, and also you can send us your questions on your comment. The MP is here. He's going to try and then answer a few if time permits us. Now, let me introduce my guest to you. He's the MP for TAIN Constituency. Has been there doing a lot of stuff. If you have been monitoring our AM Ghana shows and of course other shows, PM Ghana and others, we have been speaking to him a lot of the times. He comes in with very important comments when needed. Wherever we call him, he's always on there to answer to us and then give us what is happening and insights of what is happening in Parliament. He is the Honorable Adama Sulemana for TAIN Constituency. Good morning, Honorable.
Morning, my brother.
How are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Thanks for coming, and we've been speaking a lot on phone mostly.
Yeah.
Thanks
for having me.
Good. But how your constituency doing?
It's fine. I have to take this opportunity to say good morning to the people of TAIN. We are doing good.
Okay, great. I learned there's a lot happening in the country. I like to find out developmental projects in your constituency. For instance, I've seen a few roads being constructed in the country. I've also heard of complaints when it comes to water, sanitation. Recently, the most people complain about is about the erratic in and out of power. That is electricity, amongst others. How is the situation in your constituency?
Yeah, I think I've said it on this platform and on other platforms that the biggest challenge in my constituency is arguably roads. The road network in my constituency is very terrible. And then water and sanitation. We have problems with education and health, but if you put them on a scale, the road outweighs all. The highways, the feeder roads, the farm roads, they are all terrible. Thankfully, government started some portions of the road.
Okay.
I mean, a particular section of the road from the capital to Sampa, which is German North. We are supposed to have finished in this 2022, but as at now, they've done 5%.
Oh.
The contractor left site, but thankfully...
5%?
Yes, thankfully, last week, the 5% came from the Minister for Roads and Highway himself. I asked questions in Parliament. He came to answer the question on the roads, and he actually stated that. But thankfully, the contractor is on the road. Last week, the contractor has come back on the road, and he's promising that this time he will finish before he leaves. The other sections from Soko to Seko are very terrible. Brohane, very terrible. The road to Badu, very terrible. These are all highways, but when you talk about the farm roads, where you get the yams, the cassava, and the rest,
being transported,
very terrible. So generally, if you ask me to choose between any developmental needs, I'll talk about the roads, because it's the span of the economy. When the road is fine, education, health becomes good to deliver. Now, pregnant women, we have a new district hospital in Nsoko, 60-bed capacity, held by the former president, John Mahama. It's in operation now, but people are not able to access it because of the bad nature of the roads. So you see pregnant women being wheeled in motorcanes, and Pragya cannot even go there because of the bad nature of the road. So I'm still appealing to the government to come to our aid, to fix the roads in time, because it will only be in the interest of the government itself.
Exactly.
Apart from the health service and the educational systems that will improve, cashew is a mainstay of the districts. And cutting cashew from the constituency to Accra is always trouble because of the bad nature of the roads.
Especially when the government has an agenda to use agriculture.
Yes.
Yes,
as the fulcrum for development.
Promote, yeah.
And now government say he has the Tree Crop Development Authority.
Yeah.
They're looking at share, they're looking at cashew, they're looking at coffee and the others. Cashew is, for me, in the Bono region, TAIN is one of the leading constituencies where cashew is produced. So if the roads there are fixed, it's going to actually help in ensuring government expenditure improves, reduce armed robbery and crime, improves health delivery and education.
Interesting. So roads is a major problem there in there, but on the issue of health and education, you can manage.
It hampers health and education actually.
Yeah.
We've actually attempted building some chips compound. An NGO called Madam for Ghana has also helped build some chips compound. We still have some zones with no compounds. But when we have complicated issues, they are supposed to come to the center, to the district capital, where the district hospital is. It's a 60-bed capacity, ultra-modern. All the equipment are fixed. But because of the bad nature of the road, the people are not able to access it. Then they go back to their old ways, self-medication, not going to the hospital. So even though healthcare is a bit not too bad in the constituency, it is actually hampered by the bad nature of the roads. Yeah. Education as well. When there are events in the capital that teachers are supposed to come from the adjoining communities to the capital, they are not able to, because especially those on the stretch from Namasa, DBB, Brody, those stretch is so terrible.
Lastly, from your constituency, before we go to the now, unemployment was extensively captured in the budget for 2022. In fact, government has been very vocal on as far as employment is concerned, because the citizenry has also been very, very vocal as far as employment is concerned. What is the situation in your constituency? Are people also demonstrating because of unemployment? What are they saying?
People have not actually demonstrated, but it is by no means an indication that there's no unemployment there. It's a macrocosm of what is happening in the whole country. There's also great unemployment. We really have challenges. If you want to know the extent of unemployment in the constituency, it can actually be measured by the recent recruitment that the government is doing about the security services. As I speak to you, I have over 200 people bringing their photocopy forms to me, looking for police, fire service, immigration, military, and the rest. It tells you that there is really, really, really serious issues of unemployment issue. It is one area that should be depoliticized, because our very existence is in jeopardy if you don't solve the unemployment issues. And it's even going to be more exacerbated with the free senior high, because we are churning out the numbers.
Yeah.
And not all the numbers are prepared to go back to school. A lot of them see the free senior high or the senior level as the capping level, that they want to get employment right after they finish the senior high. We also have people who have finished the universities and the polytechnics and the rest, who are also not employed. We also have some temporary people who have finished training colleges and the nursing training college. Yeah. They will get employment, but it is not now. Sometimes they have to sit in the house for 2 years, so they join the bad wagon. So it's really an issue that needs urgent attention. So for me, government is making an attempt in the budget to solve the unemployment issue. But as the finance minister himself said, various governments have made various attempts to solve these issues. We have always gone back to the same problems with funding, with chronism, with people who actually don't have it and we are giving it to them. So if this current program is able to cure that, albeit fine.
Okay.
But it should be such that we don't politicize it and say it's for party people.
Yeah.
It should be for all Ghanaians.
Okay, interesting. Thank you very much for that update from your constituency. Hopefully things would get on better as we enter 2022, so that the next time we are talking about TAIN constituency, there will be a lot of good news, especially the routes. But for the routes, we will continue to follow the development of that your road networks in your constituency, so that we can keep our viewers updated. Thank you very much, Honorable. But let's look at the budget that was presented in Parliament a few days ago. It has actually generated a lot of discussions, and people are not impressed with the budget. On the other side, people are also hopeful that, all things being equal, the budget would actually push the economy as it is intended, or as it is intending to do. Yesterday, I listened to the president of the country director, actually, of the World Bank, that is Pierre Laporte, who said that considering the 2022 budget, it puts the economy of the country on a very, very good path. More like he's hopeful that if everything there is implemented, the country is going to be on some form of a trajectory, a good one for that matter. Give me your general comments on the budget before we come to the specifics in the budget.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it's a constitutional requirement that the government must present budget, that's estimate of how the government intends to raise revenue and how that revenue will be used. So various governments have undertaken those events, presentation of budgets. Just like you're aware, last week the minister presented, and just like the constitution and our standing orders demands, 3 days after that, debate must go on.
Yeah.
My general impression about the budget is that the government is undertaking an audacious revenue measures that will not inure to the benefit of Ghanaians. You don't do all the things at the same time. If you check the budget, the government is trying to raise revenue by a percent of 44% from last year's level. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in any economy. More to it, 77% of the intended revenue will be non-oil tax. If it is oil, if it is quarry, but non-oil clearly told that it is the people who are going to bear the brunt.
Yeah.
So the revenue measures, the revenue is also linked to how the government is going to expend. The revenue measures are audacious. If it is allowed to stand, Ghanaians are going to be worse off, considering the fact that the preamble of the budget states that we have gone through a difficult spell in the last 3 years, 2019, especially in Ghana, 2020 and 2021, where COVID struck. So Ghanaians have been impoverished. Our educational institutions are in trouble, health issues. It's all captured in the budget. And our economic life have also been hampered. So if these are the conditions, you don't tax them more. You have to find another means of generating the resources. And in fact, it's not about the generation of the resources. So my general impression is that we have means of generating resources. We have given the government a lot of means to generate the resources, and they have. So my first issue has got to do with the revenue mobilization measures. They are too audacious, they are too sudden, and that it could have been gradual.
Okay. Going through the budget, I got the impression that, in fact, you can deduce from the budget that the government is also trying to go on this tangent, because if you look at the tax to GDP ratio, even within the West African, among our peers, we are doing, as of 2019, we are doing 12 point something percent. You look at countries like Ivory Coast, and some brothers are in the West African countries are doing a bit well than us. You look at South Africa, somewhere around 26%. So you get the impression that the government of the day is trying to either match up and think that we should still, or we can still do more as a country in order to, raise revenue and then embark on developmental projects of the country.
Okay. You see, economists cannot be compared in isolation. As you are comparing our GDP to tax to GDP ratio in other countries, you also have to compare all the other variables. If you go to South Africa, how much of the informal sector is taxed? How much of that percentage of people who are paying tax are in the formal sector? Okay. How many of them are in the informal sector? When you go to Ivory Coast, you go to the other neighboring countries, you have to do all this analysis. Again, government is so convenient for government to compare where it feels fit. What is the GDP of Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, Togo, Benin, South Africa? How is their level of growth? You are telling us that we grew by 0.54% in 2021. In our sub-region, it was one of the lowest. So you cut your coat according to your size. And in fact, in 2021, so many taxes have been heaped. If our tax to GDP ratio is low, it is not by a quantum jump from a goal. It should be gradual.
Okay.
So maybe 2-3 budgets should be able to solve problem, to get closer to our peers. You don't just start from the goal and trying to get to where they are. Then you try to make the people worse off. Our problem now is that nobody is against taxation. In fact, we have never been against taxation.
Every government will definitely
yes. Revenue through taxes. You see, we must come with principles. But some governments, some people started and say, we'll move away from taxation
to
production. Now we are all coming back to ground zero. You shouldn't cry more than the bereaved. If you think that taxation, you said taxation was no good. If you really accepted that nobody can develop without taxation, it should be gradual. 2021, we have proved so many taxes for the government in the budget that has not, we've not even finished implementing that. We are supposed to finish by the 31st of December. The health recovery levy, the SLR that was increased, the banks, the financial sector cleanup levy, and all those things. You have to increase NHIL, put taxes on LPG, put taxes on diesel and petrol to be able to raise revenue for this government. We agreed and we passed those budgets because we knew COVID has actually done a lot to ravage our economy and that we needed to recover. People even needed vaccines. That's why COVID-19 recovery levy in 2021, in all this problem that Ghanaians were going through, we had to agree to pass these things. So for me, the government has got the means. We have given him the measures to be able to do these things. So, but these new ones are actually going to impoverish the Ghanaians, especially the REITs.
The REITs. Okay. If you also look at, if you consider the impact of COVID-19, of course, it's quite global. It's not just exclusive to Ghana. It's global. You also get the impression that government, I mean, even in the budget, there is a COVID-19 recovery or economic recovery plan there. Perhaps that's also a contribution to where we are today. I mean, considering what the budget puts out, the 2022 budget puts out, taxes, revenue mobilization and generation. Can we also attribute a little part of it to still we're still having the impact of the COVID around? Yes. Consider the fact that we have not, as a country, been able to vaccinate even 10% or so of our population.
I agree, my brother. It's the reason why we are here today. You see, we've passed taxes for government for us to recover from COVID. In fact, we passed taxes for government with our petroleum products, which is everybody consumes petrol.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, we will travel. No matter what happens, we will follow our cars. So we are already burdening the Ghanaian with these taxes. We can't continue to be doing the same again. So all that we are saying is that yes, government needs to raise revenue. We have other means of raising the revenue, including taxes. But taxes is not the only means. Brother, come to think of it, Ghana as a country, we have had cocoa, we have had gold, we have had manganese, bauxite, we have borrowed. If they couldn't solve our problems,
you have borrowed.
You see, we have borrowed.
Yeah.
We should not put our eggs in one basket and think that the e-levy especially is the panacea to all our problems. We will come back to this studio You remember the communication service tax?
Yes.
It was as if the moment we passed the communication service tax,
was going to take away
all our problems were going to go away. No. So all that we are saying is that the ones that we have given the government, they are revenue loopholes that needs to be plugged. The Public Financial Management Act, the PFM.
Yeah.
If you're able to enforce it, the Public Procurement Authority, the PPA Act, if you're able to enforce it, go to the ports. If you come to Parliament, look at our order paper. Every day and every week, there's a request for waivers for supposed companies that are coming to set up for 1D1F.
Yeah.
Government is telling us that the 278 1D1F projects are ongoing. One of stays in operation, 24 pipeline, and blah, 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 blah. But we have negative growth in the industrial sector, according to the budget. We are giving waivers as sometimes as much as 134 million euros, Ghana cedi equivalent 134 million euros, 11 million euros, 50 million euros to companies. They are all leakages in the system. Look, the Auditor General reports clearly say financial irregularities, payroll irregularities, and other misapplication of funds, mismanagement of funds amounted to 12.8 billion, almost 13 billion. The e-levy, the supposed e-levy, will fetch us almost 6 billion in a year. Look at what we lose, and look at what we want to plug in. And don't forget, when we are able to cut our quota according to our size, we spend according to our means. We will be able to manage with the taxes that Parliament have given to the government already. I'm not saying we should not collect it. We're already collecting the taxes. Look, this budget is proposing for us to increase fees and charges by at least 15%. And that every 5 years, there will be a revision. And that in every year, the inflation rate will determine the rate of charging. But for the base now, we should increase it by 15%. We have over 29,000 fees and charges. All public universities, all public technical universities, all government schools, all government facilities, all services that are provided by government are going to go up. So your DVLA, your passport, your hospital charges. Somebody said even mortgage charges. When you are bereaved and you are in trouble, you are going to charge you by 50%. So if you allow this budget to pass in its current form, Ghanaians are going to be worse off. And I think during the newspaper review, I heard your reviewer talking about a statement that was made by the Deputy Minister for Finance, Honorable John Kuma, to the effect that transaction from your Momo to, I think, bank to Momo wallet or something is not going to be charged. Where did he get it? According to the budget, he said electronic transactions, bank charges, Momo, inward remittances, merchants. If the government is now giving us more flesh, they should come and tell us that flesh. For me, I don't believe what he has said. Because it is also electronic transaction. So we are going to be worse off with this, for me, outrageous revenue mobilization measures. It has never happened in any economy that for one financial year you want to raise revenue by 44%. It is going to make Ghanaians worse off.
Government talks about measures it has also put in place. For instance, you mentioned the 1D1F. If you go through the budget, especially the outlook of the 2021 budget, in every sector, for instance, if you go to communication and information, it talks about job creation there. It is one thing I realized in the budget, whichever sector that the finance minister mentioned or is captured in the budget, you get numbers as far as job creation is concerned. It simply means that more jobs are being created, people are working, and thereby people can pay the taxes.
It's good to put the things in the budget and say this is what is happening. But it's also good to go to the field and go and see what is happening. You see, somebody used some words. One of the members of parliament used a word on the floor of parliament yesterday. I would say it is policy inconsistencies. because it has taken us almost 20 years for this digitalization agenda.
Yeah.
Mobile money penetration, the use of mobile money, people did not just accept it. It has taken us almost 20 years. For the last 2 or 3 weeks, the Minister for Communication, the Vice President have been on the digitalization agenda.
Yeah.
In fact, this digitalization agenda started mostly from President Mahama. The Accra Digital Center, the laying of the fiber cables, trying to put the infrastructure,
the data center,
put the infrastructure into place for able to grow digitally. So as we speak now, people are able to do transactions without going specifically to where these transactions are supposed to be done. People don't no more go to the banks. So the queues in the banks are reducing. Yeah. People are now doing transactions. People are selling and buying online.
E-commerce is
e-commerce. So it's creating the employment that you are talking about in the communication sector. So if you try to tax unduly those sectors, it's a very, very, very inelastic sector. There's a huge possibility of people not undertaking the electronic transaction because of the taxes that have been put on it. If people don't go there, you are reducing the employment avenues there, and we are bringing it back to the manual way of doing things. So how can you bring a policy? You are interested in increasing the use of electronic platforms. Then you bring a tax that in all purpose and intent has got that tendency of reducing the use of those platforms. It's policy inconsistencies. Some people refer to it as, excuse me to say, policy stupidity to undertake that. So for me, for instance, 1D1F, if really 1D1F is actually a driver, if government has actually put in place 1D1F as he claims, we will not be where we are today with the industrial sector. In my constituency, 1D1F means one district, one factory. Is that not so?
Yeah.
Government say 279. Why? If it is one district, one factory, how many districts do we have? 216. Why are we having 279? Don't be surprised. Almost 100 of those 1D1F are still concentrated in the Accra Tema enclave.
Because perhaps that's where the population is also concentrated.
So now don't call it one district, one factory, because in my constituency, in my district, we have over 100,000 population there. So if the population is centered in Accra, then give it a different name. Don't say every district will get one factory, because my district don't have the factory.
Perhaps it will get there.
When?
Well, the government still is on course, so maybe your district will get
it's not my district alone. They are other districts don't have the one district, one factory.
Yeah.
So, and I talk about the waivers that are given to these
companies coming into.
It is huge. It is very. It's you people have not averted your minds to what is going on with our waivers. It's a leakage.
But if you consider the waivers alone, perhaps we can mitigate that with revenue that will also be generated if these companies are set up.
You see, if these companies, a lot of these companies are set up. A lot of these companies that we are calling 1D1F. In fact, we were told initially that we were going to set, every district is going to get a factory, a new factory. Later, the government couldn't do, instead of coming to us and say, oh, we promised this and that, we have not been able to deliver.
We are changing our minds.
Now, they equated, they said 1D1F means stimulus package. So we are giving stimulus package to some existing companies to be able to employ people to expand to work. So in most of these 1D1F companies, they are already existing companies. Fair enough, no problem with it. But for me, this attempt to give waivers to companies that are already existing in order to categorize them as 1D1F is a leakage that must be plugged. So it's one of the issues that we are facing. My brother, if the government wants to raise revenue, the reason, you know, the toll booths, our roads are choked. I agree. In fact, Accra is a traffic-prone area. Most part of Accra are traffic-prone. It is not only at the tolls that are generating traffic. I dare say that the center of Accra is more choked than
the outskirts,
where you find the tolls.
Yeah.
So for the government to tell us that they are taking away the toll booths, not because of economic measures, not because they are not generating resources, because the things are clear in the budget. And the preamble to the statement that attempt to scrap the toll booth, it's clear that it is because it is generating traffic and that it is causing pollution, and that is the reason why they are taking it off. But the roads in Accra, the center of Accra, Kumasi, the major centers, for instance, Sunyani used to be a traffic-free area, but now Sunyani is also developing traffic. The solution to the escalate this traffic situation is not by removing the tolls. It's by expanding the road network inwards in the towns, and then the outer roads in the towns. Now you remove these tolls, forgetting that some of these tolls are PPP, and that the Ghanaians have been employed.
The minister said the PPP, the roads under the PPP arrangements are not affected. This is just the public roads.
No problem. I agree. Public roads. There are people who are working there. They have come out to say they have not been oriented enough to know what they are doing now. Apart from that, there are people who are hawking there.
Yeah, the hawkers.
The hawkers. Don't take the informal sector for granted. Government has not provided jobs for all of them. They have decided, some of them have decided to go for loans. Government didn't ask them to go for the loans, but they are Ghanaians whose livelihoods are going to be affected. So in a policy measure like this, and the surprise thing is that in the budget statement states that the moment the budget is approved, those measures will take off. It states it in the budget. But isn't it surprising that the moment the budget was, government started taking action, trying to close the roads, not suspend, abolish it. That's what
the minister came out with a statement stating reasons why he.
That is an afterthought.
He did that.
That's an afterthought. After the Speaker of Parliament has given the directive about this. So for me, the government's revenue measures, the stores could have been allowed to be there. You want to put up an e-levy, you want to bring an e-levy, right? The tolls could have been allowed to be there. Bring the levy to a level that would be acceptable from the beginning. As we move on, as we go out of COVID, as people get back to work, as the economy tries to improve, you can gradually start to increase the rate of collection. People will have started with you. So all the things that we are saying is that it is not everything in this budget that is not good. No. Things like you start an attempt to generate income.
We will actually look at that one.
Very good. Yeah. Attempt to create employment. They are good. But then we must cut our coat according to our size. The budget, the policy statement have got these fees and charges, this e-levy and other things. That should be decoupled from the good parts in the budget. So the government should come again, review some policy measures that they have put in place, and all of us will be for it.
That is actually your point, to review some of the policy measures as far as revenue mobilization is concerned. Yes. But let's look at the e-levy, for instance. We are looking at an opportunity for the government to raise a lot of revenue, mobilize a lot of revenue for development. So if you consider what the e-levy revenue that will be generated will be used for, it captures a number of things. There is roads there, among other things, even the same
job creation.
Job creation and all that. Should the focus not be where this is taking us, rather than the how? And I mean, trying to one gentleman said, trying to punch holes in the policy measure that the government has actually brought, rather than looking at the focus where this could take us, because we are raising revenue from an area that could also go ahead to take care of different other areas. That should be the focus. Or
my brother, how can the how not be important? The how is very important because it's about Ghanaians, it's about all of us. You see, one of the justification for the e-levy, if you read the budget statement, there was a whole treatise about it before the policy measure was actually announced. It's in the budget.
Yeah.
One of the justification is that only about 10% or some or so bear the brunt of tax, the formal sector, and that the informal sector is not taxed enough, and that they want to bring this avenue to be able to tax the informal sector. It's all captured in the budget. But that's not true. This measure will not solve the inequity because tax must also be, there must be equity in the administration of tax. So if the government says those in the formal sector, those who pay income tax through their direct from controller, and those in parliament who don't pass through controller and other stuff, and because of that they want to bridge that gap and rope in more people because they are bringing this. It is erroneous. The people who are in the formal sector, and then the cutoff point is that if you send 100 cedis or more, then you are going to be taxed.
Yeah.
The people who are in the formal sector are more likely to be affected by this tax than people in the informal sector. Because the more you send, the more you pay. The more taxes you pay. Is that not right?
Yeah.
I am more likely to send money to my constituents than, for instance, somebody from TAIN in Accra, doing hawking.
Yeah.
How much can the person send home? So in actual fact, I am going to pay more. Even though government tried to bring the tax, to bring equity, I am going to pay more because I'll be able to send more than a person in the informal sector. So that, in that state, it is defeated. That justification
of
is
equity,
defeated.
of bringing equity in.
If bringing equity is defeated. 2, the road tolls was also used to repair roads. If the government thinks that the quantum of money that we get from the road toll is small, they should tell us.
They said it's small.
They never said it. Why?
78 million. I mean,
no.
I listened to Dr. John Kuma who said...
Please, it's not about what John Kuma said. It's about what the finance minister presented to us in parliament.
Okay.
Nowhere in the budget did the government say that the money that they get from the road toll is small, and that is the reason why they are scrapping. If it is small, the drivers are saying that remove the taxes on fuel.
Okay.
Remove some of the taxes on fuel and we'll be able to afford the fuel. Paying the toll is not our problem. Ghanaians will be prepared for an increase in the tolls than for this e-levy. You know why? Because the e-levy is going to impoverish those that you don't want to impoverish. How many people in the car, even if the road toll is increased by, say, 100% or 200%, if you pay 2 cedis, if you pay 1 cedi on the road toll and it's increased to 3 cedis, you are paying 3 cedis at the road toll. The driver take the 3 cedis and you want to spread the 3 cedis across to the passengers. Maybe the passengers are going to pay 10 pesos or 20 pesos in addition to what they were paying already. But with this e-levy, every member of that, the people in the car are going to be affected. Not by 10 pesos, by more. Because the state is saving 1.75. And if you're able to send 100 cedis of 1.75. So, the government could have increased the road toll without abolishing the road toll if they think that the 78 million Ghana cedis every year. But I've already told you
that would have been problematic. I mean, drivers are crying already. So increasing the road toll would have been another thing.
The drivers could have passed the road tolls to the populace. The drivers could have passed the road tolls. They won't pay themselves now.
Yes, I understand.
They could have passed the road tolls to the general public.
That will still mean that the general public is still the ones suffering at the end of the day.
You see, I'm not talking about government not imposing taxes. I am talking about the rate of the imposition of the taxes.
Okay. Understood.
Yes. So, the justification for abolishing the road toll is flawed. The justification for introducing the e-levy is flawed. And these are the policy measures. And even the justification for increasing, I think that it's even the serious one, the fees and charges.
With the e-levy, what about what the government say in their agenda for financial inclusion? I mean, if you look at the population that is paying taxes, out of the working population, let me put it that way, we have so about 12 million working population, and you find a little over 2 million, or let's say about 3 million, paying the taxes. That's a lot of burden on just these 3 million people. But if you extend the tax paying into the informal sector through the Momo or taxing services like Momo, then you are going to get a lot of people from the informal sector also paying. That is also, trying to achieve the financial inclusion or the widen the tax net achievement there.
So if you want to widen the tax net, like you say, justification, good. Definitely, there are people in the informal sector. I've already argued that it will come back to overburden the 3 million that you don't want to burden. I've argued that way already.
Yeah.
Yes, there are some people in the informal sector that will be roped in.
Yes.
But why don't you start with a lower rate? You see, the service provider, the telecos,
yes,
who are providing a service, are charging 1%. 1%.
Yeah.
You, the government, who is providing us no service, you're already charging the telecos for every call that we made. Do you know that?
Yeah.
If I make the call, we are paying VAT. The telecos push that cost to the consumer. Now we are taxing us again for no service provided. Because the telecos take the 1 cedi, share with government. Because government will take, I think, 25 pesos. And the telecos will take 75 pesos of that 1 cedi. So the government is already taking the money. So he's taking the money twice again. That is the point that we are making. So even though you'll be able to rope in people from the informal sector, ultimately, the people from the formal sector are also going to be affected again.
They are paying more.
And then the rate could have been lower. The rate could have been lower. It's like the person is hitting you, but it's not hitting you. You don't feel it. But when they give it to you once, you realize it's...
I checked with countries that are involved in this same e-levy. Countries like Uganda, Kenya. I saw a country like Uganda paying about 1%. That would have been okay if the government stayed at perhaps 1%.
They are not even those countries that talk about, they are not even charging them on electronic transactions. They are charging. You see, the government wanted to be creative. There are companies, you and I, we are always on Facebook.
Yes.
We are on WhatsApp. We are on Telegram. We are on Instagram. We are on all these platforms that change of information. These companies that we are talking about are charging these companies. These are the companies that they are not charging on the electronic transactions. If you read the policy document from Uganda and from Kenya, even in those situations, they have shown that, research have shown that in Kenya, for instance, the use of electronic platforms have gone down because of the taxes that have been. It's a very, people are so smart that they will move away when they feel that they are paying more. So the government could have, creativity is not about what is obvious. Creativity is about going beyond what is obvious. This one, I don't want to use the word that the communication minister used some time ago, that if governance is all about taxation, his 5-year-old child could have been president. I don't want to use those words. But you see, the government could have been more creative by looking at these companies, the Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, those areas. For me, if you are going to Facebook, if you are going to WhatsApp, and you are going to this, and the government is charging you, but Momo is a business. It's a transaction that is catching up, creating employment and all those stuff. Especially for people at the lower level who are vulnerable and you're trying to protect. You are actually exposing them. And for me, 100 Ghana cedis, getting 100 Ghana cedis doesn't make you rich.
40% of the transactions, especially done through the Momo service were found out to be below 100%, 100 cities, sorry. Another reason why they considered the threshold to be 100 Ghana cedis.
Come again, 40% of?
I mean, so the statistics showed that 40% of the total transactions, the Momo transactions, fell under 100 Ghana cedis. That is why the threshold was capped at 100 Ghana cedis.
100 Ghana cedis. What about the 60%?
They are able to send more.
Yeah, so when you are able to send 100 cedis, you are rich. You are not poor.
What the communications minister said.
Because I'm assured the communication minister that when you are able to send, there are people who can even send 1,000 Ghana cedis, but they are still poor. Because for the 1,000 Ghana cedis, for some people, is there 3 months or 4 months that you have put them together. Emergency could arise. They need to send money to their parents. They need to send money to their kids and the villages. They have come here to hawk. They need to send money. So they'll send all those money. It doesn't make them rich. So, yeah, research shows 40%, but it still doesn't actually. I mean, the panacea is the rate. Nobody has said government cannot tax, but panacea is the rate and the target.
But people have even argued about the threshold, perhaps increased to, let's say, some 300 or 500 Ghana.
Very good. The threshold could have been increased too, so that we are very sure in our hearts and in our minds that the very vulnerable are excluded. My brother, the problem of this government is not for lack of resources. In fact, the amount of resources that have come to this government, it is more than any other government in the history of this country. Look, in 2009, the whole budget of President Atamils, the whole budget was 8 billion Ghana cedis. 8 billion, in fact, specifically 8 billion 460 million 754.475476 cedis. That is the whole revenue that President Atamils was supposed to use, and that is what he used. 8 billion. In 2010, 11 billion. In 2011, 13 billion. In 2012, 20 billion. In fact, when we start getting the oil receipt, in 2013, 29 billion. In 2014, 32 billion. In 2015, 39 billion. In 2016, 51 billion. But I can tell you that with this, with the last one, John Mahama,
that's in 2016,
51 billion. All the things that you see that the government did, the University of Ghana Medical Center, the roads that we built, the hospitals that we built, the e-blocks that we built, the data center, the communication infrastructure that we provided, all the things that we did were within this. Look, this government has received the amount that this government has received is more than any other government in 4 years. It's more than any other government. It's more than the 8 years of the NDC government. Look, in 2017, the government had 41 billion. In 2018, 46 billion. In 2019, 54 billion. I don't have the figure for 2022, but in 2022, the government is proposing, with these revenue measures, it is proposing to get 137 billion. So it is not for the lack of resources. If somebody should use 39 billion, 32 billion in a year to do all the things that they did, you are getting 54 billion 2019. You are telling us that you need 137 billion. For what?
You are legislatures. Is it that the can we attribute this to development, or we are looking at we are still talking about wastage, mismanagement, and as if the government doesn't know what to do? The government says it is providing a lot of jobs. I mean, if you look at the budget statement, like I mentioned earlier, you go to the communications alone, under communication, where you realize a lot of numbers there, even to the MDAs and the MMDAs as well. So you look at from SIM card registration, the Ghana card registration. There is what we call the the Government Digitalization Initiative. There is the Ghana Open Data Initiative platform. In fact, a whole lot of things. In 2022, the ministry wants to also deploy the information system for computer emergency response team. Still, employment we are talking about. A whole lot of them. So there are numbers, and so here the ministry through the GIFEC will provide 1,400 additional sites that's going to provide 12,000 rural communities. And if you look at these are going to create more employment. But
they are going to create, they have not created.
If you look at the 2021 outlook, a lot of numbers are here in the 2021 outlook, where trainings and employment have been given to thousands of people.
See, the government, you see, these are, I don't know, these are temporary jobs, and some of them have not even, in 2021, for instance, when you say the communication industry, for instance, when government said they are going to build 1,016 cell sites to be able to provide those, how many of the cell sites were built?
504.
Where?
Well, I'll check about that, but so far, 506 have been erected out of the acquired 1,000 plus sites. Two network operation centers are live in Accra and Kumasi, while 800 communities were provided with the broadband infrastructure. A total about 2,016 sites will be built upon. That is in 2022. But so far, it says 506 according to the budget.
I don't deny the fact that because as the government stimulates the economy, as the government applies the budget, there will be some jobs that are created.
Yeah.
But on a scale, unemployment is still an issue. Good. And I was talking about the results that the government gets. And you were talking about that there's actually wastage in the system. And I'm not the one saying it. The Auditor General, report is clear. Good. Look, this is a developing economy. This is a country with a presidential jet and our president flies in the sky. We can block all these loopholes. Now they say the president travels are top secret. They are no more secret. They are supposed to be top secret. Meanwhile, when the president is traveling, he will have to communicate to the people of Ghana that I am traveling through parliament, that I am going here. Yesterday, for instance, the speaker read his travels to, I think, Congo or something, as a champion for gender champion. You are telling us that I am traveling, but you don't want to tell us that this is what my travels will cost. What kind of top secret is that? Then don't tell us they are traveling at all.
National security.
What national security? We are not saying tell us where the president is going to sleep. We are telling how much did the cost the president, so that if you want to levy us, we know that our levy is going to be flying in the sky. If you're able to cut our coat, we live by our means. Some of the things, you see, one of the areas of concern is non-compliance by MDAs on the Procurement Act. The use of the Procurement Act.
That is very, very, very huge.
One area that government must avert its minds to. Because there are a lot of money that go out of the system because of that. The Public Financial Management Act, the PFM Act, MDAs are flouting it. Look, government has passed the Right to Information Act. Look at the budget. The RTI Commission presented its annual report to Parliament. I mean, the Communication Committee made them. 59% of public institutions have refused to bring their report as far as RTI related issues are concerned. In fact, 49% have also refused to bring their annual manual to the RTI Commission. These are all corruption fighting institutions. No wonder in the whole budget there was no mention of corruption. Because if you're able to plug these loopholes, then we don't need to be levying the people unnecessarily. If you're able to stop the wastage in collection of duties at the ports.
That is, and if you get the impression from government communications that these loopholes, like we are talking about, are being worked on. For instance, that is why the agenda to digitize a lot of these sectors are in. Now, it mentions this budget actually captures some systems in the Attorney General's office that will even help the court to also expedite actions in there. You look at what we have seen at the the passport offices, the DVLEs, and the port and others. This is the actions taken by government.
It's the reason why, you see, the agenda to digitize, to be able to plug in these loopholes. This agenda of digitization will not work if this e-levy thing is not looked through properly. If I'm to pay for my passport fee online, is it an electronic transaction?
Yes, yes.
Will it be captured by the e-levy?
Yes, of course.
Yes. So it will prevent people from using these services. So you can't be approbating and reprobating at the same time. This is a burgeoning economy. This is a burgeoning industry, the digitalization agenda. Let it stabilize. Let us get our foothold before we start to apply some of these measures. So it's still the same thing. So if the government wants to use the digitalization agenda to be able to curb these loopholes, then it must actually hasten up, because we are losing a lot of resources. That is what the government must do, hasten up the digitalization agenda. But then you don't bring a policy that will actually reduce our attempt to digitize, so that we'll be able to plug in these loopholes without necessarily taxing the people unnecessarily. And that is the focus.
Interesting. That's very, very interesting. Now let's look at another area that seems the government is trying to also cure another problem we have as a country: employment, especially with the youth. So the government introduces the Youth Start. If you go into the budget statement, the minister starts by talking about the Obatampa Care program that has been there for a while, and the new one, the Youth Start, where entrepreneurs, young people with ideas, business ideas that could also go ahead to create employment for colleagues, would be given a certain start. It doesn't just end with the money. It has training programs, guidance, let me put it that way, for it to take off properly. We haven't heard that one that much about. We haven't heard that much about that particular in Parliament.
The Youth Start.
Yes.
Thank you, I think it's one of the best policies in this budget.
Okay.
But this policy coming from the New Patriotic Party, we must be careful.
Why
we must be careful because we are here. We were here in 2016, 2017 when we had a 1D, 1F, 1 village, 1 dam, 1 million per constituency, NAPCO, this beautiful names, beautiful renditions, but the implementation. You see, I say this because Ghana, we are our own enemy. Look, attempt to truncate policies of other governments when we take over is the bane of this economy and this country. This is nothing new. My brother, Youth Start is nothing new. It is a decoration of, it's like something that is there and we decorated and given it a new name. You remember the Youth Enterprise Support Program?
Yes.
Under President Don Mahama?
Yeah, the YES program.
The YES program, where young men with brilliant business ideas were supported. A lot of young men were supported. When the New Patriotic Party took over, NPP took over, it is just change of name. NEIP. In fact, their first director or something was the current Deputy Finance Minister, John Kuma. He was the director of NEIP. NEIP was just the YES whose names have been changed because it was also the same principle. Young people with brilliant ideas are supposed to be supported and to be able to. Now, it has metamorphosed from NEIP into Youth Start under the Ghana Care Obatampa. You know the Ghana Care Obatampa program was in the 2021 budget.
Yes.
So now the NEIP has now changed into Youth Start program, and that there are 3 main components: training, funding, and then I think entrepreneurship, something that the government put there in the budget. It is my hope and prayer that this change of name will not be like the NAPCO, because
But what happened to the NAPCO? I mean, the NAPCO is still in
What did we tell the NAPCO people?
It ended. Government asked them to stay home whilst other plans have been made for them, but government called them back.
That government told them that they will be absorbed into the public sector.
Yeah.
That's what government told them.
Yes.
Now government is telling us that they will be enrolled into the U-Start. It's also in the budget. They will be enrolled into the U-Start.
Yeah.
In fact, when you open your lines now and ask the NAPCO people to call you, they are really frustrated and disappointed.
That is true.
Because some of them cry, the allowance have not been paid. So it is not the name. It is the implementation. And I said it on another platform yesterday that it is my hope and prayer that if the government gets the opportunity to implement U-Start, it will not be for cronies. It will not be for party apparatchiks. It will not be for foot soldiers. If the foot soldiers and the cronies qualify, no problem. But it will be for all Ghanaians, irrespective of your gender, your race, your religion, and your political affiliation.
This particular issue you raise has actually cost us a lot.
Yes.
A few weeks ago, the information minister organized a forum, a discussion on Twitter, a space, and I listened to Adama Sulemana,
Yes.
who came up with this particular thing you've mentioned, that even though government wants to help curb the issues of unemployment by introducing such policies and interventions, what has actually caused the government's downfall, in not just exclusive to this particular government, but successive government, is when the access to this training program, this funding, this guidance, and whatever is included there, has been limited to party foot soldiers and other people. And that is why we are here today.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. We are here today because of that, because I said on another platform that even the COVID alleviation. Yeah, you go to the various districts,
NBSSI,
and it was politicized. Everything that we do in this country is politicized, but it has assumed a gargantuan proportion since 2017. So we are just hoping that if the government gets the opportunity, it should be dispoliticized, and every person who qualifies gets the opportunity. The minister actually has stated that we don't have the needed training. Ghanaian youth don't have the needed training to be able to access the opportunities that are available. Yeah, so as part of the use, there's going to be training.
Training, funding, and enterprise promotion.
Very good. And enterprise promotion. Yeah. And then good part is about the funding. We should not make it a token. Ghana cannot. I saw they are going to create 1 billion jobs, 1 million jobs.
Yeah.
We should be able to produce entrepreneurs who will produce these 1 million jobs. But we should not be attempting to say we want to produce 1 million entrepreneurs. It doesn't happen. So if you have the funding, you give the funding to the people who can also create jobs for others. And it should be enough. Funding has always also been an issue in Ghana for when we tried this entrepreneurship.
There's issues. 1 billion.
Says.
Yeah.
So there's 1 billion. Let's use it judiciously. Let's give the resource to the people who can really create the jobs. So for me, if you ask me, the one thing that I like about this budget, it is this U-Start. Somebody will say, but we use money to be able to undertake the U-Start. I also say, we have given the government enough money to be able to do the U-Start.
The last time I was in the studio with one of the communication communication members, and he had a problem with the 1 billion, considering the amount given government, and you want to give only 1 billion to an area that will create employment. He had a problem that the 1 billion was too small. Is it too small?
Well, it could have been better, but it's better. You start somewhere. Yeah, even though it could have been better, but you start somewhere because it's a policy.
Yeah.
Policy implementation brings its own dimensions. So as you start the implementation of that policy, and you see the nuances, you see the pros and cons, then in subsequent budget, we could actually act it.
Now, what is the minority's stance? Now the budget is in Parliament at the debate level. Hopefully today it will come to an end. What is the minority trying to push? That the government goes back to review a few of the things inside the budget, or I mean, it's just the normal stance of a minority. We won't approve the budget because you are the minority.
No, that's not a normal stance. You know, when the debate started, if you followed us, there was a banter about procedure.
Yeah.
Because it's been the convention in Parliament that when you are debating the budget, it's sectorial. This
so
is the
sector
ministers must be there
present,
to take notes, because there may be suggestions, there may be recommendations that will help to refine the budget. That's all.
I think the finance minister hasn't been there.
The finance minister hasn't been there, so that was where the banter was coming from. We wanted the finance minister to be there to see the input from members on the floor, because fine, wisdom is not in one person's head.
Yeah.
All that the minority we are seeking to do is that it is not everything about this budget that is not good. There are good things in the budget, and there are also bad things in the budget. But it's a policy in one document. You can't pass half of the provisions in the budget and reject half. When you are passing everything.
Yeah.
All that we are asking the government is to go back, look at all the contributions that we have given on the floor, on the debate, and then come back to us. There's nothing wrong for the government to issue a statement to say, based on the contributions, based on civil society, based on what the populace, the Ghanaian populace, based on what is happening in the media, we want to review some of the issues. When they bring the issues, when they review some of the issues, for instance, about the e-levy, about the fees and charges and the rest, we are all for it. We all, because people have commended some part of the budget and condemned some part of the budget. But because they are together, that's why somebody concluded that this budget is fit for the dustbin. It's not because everything on the budget.
But once, I mean, there are good parts in the budget. I mean, it doesn't pass for the fit for the, I mean, how do you call it? The dustbin coming.
That was an exaggerated statement. That was an exaggerated statement to let you know that the bad things must be expunged out. And so all that we are seeking is not to put wheels in the hood. In fact, this parliament, everybody thought that we were going to be impediments to the government. That's what everybody thought. To the extent that even with the ministers, with the confirmation of ministers, our own party members had problems with us for confirming some ministers. But we thought that we had governance to run. Last budget, the first budget of the second term from Nana Akufo-Addo, was passed without any qualms. True or false?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have never been an impediment to this government. In fact, this government is an impediment to itself. This government is an impediment to itself. That's why on the floor of Parliament during debate, you can see that sometimes there are stalls in debate because of activities of the majority itself. So, and look at the numbers. You check the numbers in Parliament during debate. We are all, even though we are 137, sometimes we are twice their numbers in Parliament. So we actually want government business to go on. But we are not prepared to allow government business that will impoverish the people to go on. That one we are not prepared. So if the government come back to say, I'm going to do 1 or 2 changes, suggesting that you make
that perhaps have been suggested by the minority. Have you given the government some, I mean, suggestions, not just to go and sit down and review themselves, but say that, you know what, for instance, the toll booth, the abolition of the toll booth, bring it back. If you bring it back, we stand to get A, B, C, and D. E-levy, increase threshold to, let's say, 300, reduce the tax to, let's say, 0 point something %.
Yes, my brother.
Use that, do it this way. The government charges, reduce it to, let's say, 5% or 10% or 18%. I mean, are there specific options given to the government?
We have specific options, but the specific options are not put down on a paper and given to government. It is done through the debates on the floor of Parliament. So you are supposed to come to take notes. These are the suggestions of the minority. Every sector that they wake up, every MP who wakes up from the minority side for every sector, in delivering their speeches, they tell you the alternative. They tell you that this, if you could have done it this way, if could have done it this way. For instance, on security matters.
Yes.
Yesterday, Honorable James Agaga was delivering on the security matter. He was giving the government alternatives. One Honorable Mahama Yariga was speaking on judiciary matters. He was giving the government alternatives. Even the majority side, some of the things that they say are not in the budget, but these are alternatives that could be captured into the budget.
There are a few of them who have called for a review of some of the things.
Very good. There are few of them who have called. So the minister is supposed to be there to take the minute. That is all that the debate is about. So that we will reform what has been put there.
What do you think from the outlook of things in Parliament? Today, perhaps the debate will conclude. Do you think that the budget will still be approved? Or you think if you don't get what you want from the government, it's not good? I mean, especially the minority is not going to give it a pass.
Approval of the budget is by simple majority.
Yeah.
Today, the policy document, the debate on the policy document will be concluded. Actually, today was set up for leadership to frame the debate, and then we will take a decision on it. Approval of the budget is by simple majority. But we have made our points clear as a minority that we are opposed to some portions of the budget. And that if the government does something about it, then it will get a unanimous approval. But if the government keeps the things that they have kept in the budget in its current form, even if they will get approval, it will not be with the minority's consent. We have 137 numbers in Parliament. If the government doesn't change the thing that they have put in the budget, the 137 will not be part of the approval of this budget.
How sure can we be? Because we yesterday I saw a comment on Facebook that, I mean, party members, like you put it, expected the 137 in Parliament to be raised 10 on some of the ministers that were supposed to be approved. At the end of the day, we saw the ministers being approved. So how sure can we be that if government don't come up with a review of some of these policies in the budget, this 137, the minority side in Parliament, won't be part of whatever happens there?
We have gone beyond the ministers. In fact, in the confirmation of the ministers, our standing orders are clear. It is one of two conditions under which we vote by secret ballot. Yes. Government policy issues, it's not by secret ballot. So I'm assuring you that the 137 will not be part of the approval of this budget in its current form. But if today we get some indication that government has agreed to do some review, we are all for it. We will approve so that governance can go on. But in its current form, with e-levy, with the charges on this
government services,
they won't be, the minority will not be part of this approval. Because isn't it ironic that this government will spend 5 years from 2017 up to 2021, and in the 2021 budget, it's called the budget a Jenkwan budget.
Yeah.
If somebody is not in wilderness, do you need a savior? The government knows where he has put us. Or no one, he has put it under a very difficult spell. That's why he said this budget is a Jenkwan. There is nothing at Jenkwan. There is nothing. Where has he put us that he wants to save us? So for us, there are good parts in the budget and there are bad parts in the budget. The government must come to the table. Let's reform it. Let's get our output. Let's reduce the rate that we are trying to charge Ghanaians, and we're all for it. Otherwise, for in this current form, the 137 will not be part. If it happens to be in the on the floor of Parliament, the 137 is able to take a majority decision, Ghanaians will see that the budget will not pass. But for the others, I don't know what will happen. So I don't want to give people assurances. But all that I can say is that the 137 will not be part of this budget in its current form.
Let me take your last your comment quickly on something that Atofos and Doctor said. We are wrapping up on our conversation, but considering cutting expenditure on the public purse, Dr. Kuku mentioned in Parliament that parliamentarians should also try and review some of their benefits, and so that the pressure or the burden on the government's purse would be reduced. Where Dr. Atofos responded with, he is ready to deal with it when it comes to things like forgoing his ex gratia and car loans, and you have heard those comments about it. What do you think about it? Is it the right call? Even though it is conditional, he gave a condition that unless the leader himself also cuts some of his expenses before.
I'm not too sure of I'm not too sure of that, because for some of the conditions for members of parliament, for instance, the car loan, for instance, what does government spend on the car loan? We are paying at least some of the monies back. We are paying some of the monies back. So the government go and guarantee. What the government does is to guarantee from NIB. NIB, even though it's a government bank, technically not the government that is paying. If you want areas where we want to cut, because I pay my fuel, I pay tools, I pay my driver. So if you want areas where we want to cut costs, there are areas that we want to cut costs. But I'm not too sure about forgoing car loan and in fact, what we call ex gratia is our salary adjustment. As the 4% have been done, it's not reflected. It's not reflected now in our salary. But by the time we get there, by the time we finish our term, that's when it will be reflected. Then you call it ex gratia. Is it that we should sacrifice the salary if that's what the so I'm not too sure about that.
I mean, the cost also comes at the back of the fact that we are not in normal time.
Yeah,
so
they have a normal time, but
you can still give it up. I mean, by then you can say that, well, we are not in normal time. Yeah, normal
but the
time.
president is still flying. The first gentleman of the state is still flying.
For government business, for the business for the country.
But we also doing government business. Even here is government business.
All right, thank you very, very much. But there's a demonstration going on currently as far as the e-levy is concerned. There are some few Ghanaians who are, in fact, I don't know whether they are on their way to parliament or they are there already. Does it have anything to do with the minority?
No, not at all. I actually heard it on the radio today, but this democracy. People have got their constitutional rights, and since it is constitutionally mandated, they have the right to do what they want to do, but it has not got nothing to do with the minority.
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Sulemana Adams. Honorable is the MP for TAIN Constituency, and we have been talking about the budget, a lot of things. We spoke about e-levy, the road tolls. We looked at the youth start, the government charges, and others. Honorable and the minority believes that there are good things in the budget, but of course there are other very, very uncomfortable ones also, where they want government to sit back and then listen to the suggestions and review it and come back to Parliament. He states that else the 137 minority in Parliament will not be part of the approval. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much, Honorable, for coming. We are very grateful for your time. We'll come your way with more on this. Honorable is our friend, and he would always respond to us when you want to get more information from Parliament. So stay with Adoatv and Adoa News Online as we keep on posting you about happenings in Parliament. My name is Samuel Kusiapia. Thanks to you all for joining us today. Bye-bye.